In the screen, you have a view of what happened or what do we get from digestion. From foods, we get the starches, and then with the help of amylases in different parts of our gastrointestinal tract, starting in the mouth, but then with the complete digestion in the small intestine, we get monosaccharides units, and mainly glucose, because the starches are polymers of glucose units. But we can also get glucose, for example, from lactose and from sucrose, together with other monosaccharides like fructose, galactose, etc., for which we didn't talk about the catabolic reaction. So we are mainly focusing on glucose. We then absorb glucose in the small intestine, and we transport glucose to the liver. So this is digestion and transport. And sometimes we refer this as a stage 1 in the process of getting energy, because even if we don't get energy from this first part, we depend on this to be able to use glucose as a source of energy. Once in the liver, depending on our needs, glucose can be used as a source of energy. It means we will use glucose in catabolic reactions, or if we don't need it for energy or we have an excess of glucose, we will store this glucose for later use in the form of glycogen, which is a polymer of glucose units. It means we will create new bonds, we will have a polymer, and this is anabolic reactions. And this is, for example, this is glycogenesis. And we didn't talk about this in chapter A, because chapter A is dealing with the reactions that give us energy. It means the catabolic reactions. In the case of glucose, the first state or the first pathway that allows to get energy is called glycolysis. It's the breakdown of glucose, which is a 6 carbon molecules, into smaller molecules called pyruvate, which is a 3 carbon molecules. We are not learning the structures in this course because this is a human nutrition course and we are more focused on the process itself. So this is called glycolysis. It's really a set of, or a pathway made by 10 reactions. So we need 10 enzymes in this process. We are not going through this process, but you please remember that there's really a set of different enzymes. By the way, lysis here means breakdown. So we are breaking down glucose units into pyruvate. And in this process, ATP is released, but it's really few ATP, only 2 ATP molecules per glucose unit. This process, also glycolysis, is anaerobic. It means we do not use oxygen in these processes. It happens in the cytoplasm of the cell and is reversible. So it means if we get pyruvate from some other sources, we can use it to synthesize glucose. Depending on our conditions, this pyruvate then can proceed through aerobic metabolisms and be converted into acetyl CoA. Some people refer to this also as aerobic glycolysis. And this process happens, is also known as transfer process, because it happens or it starts in the moment the pyruvate is being transferred to the mitochondria of the cell. So it's really happening, it starts in the cytoplasm, but it really happens in the mitochondria of the cell. It's aerobic, as I say, and it also provides few ATP. So the main goal here is just to get the acetyl CoA, which is substrate or the starting point for the next pathway. If for some reason we don't have enough oxygen or the person doesn't have enough oxygen, for example, in some kind of sepsis or when people have a stroke, and then they have some kind of hypoxia, they can proceed to this next step, and then pyruvate is converted into lactic acid or lactate, which is also an anaerobic process. And some people refer to this as anaerobic glycolysis. And we will learn, or we will mention this again in the chapter about exercise. So acetyl CoA then enters the next pathway, which is really like a cycle. So we start with acetyl CoA and we regenerate acetyl CoA. And this is called as a TCA cycle, 3-carboxylic acids cycles due to the structure of some of the molecules in this cycle, also known as Krebs Cycle, in honor to the person who described this. In this TCA cycle, also we obtain CO2 and some ATP, but it still is few ATP. And then after the TCA cycle, we continue to the electron transfer chain and oxidative phosphorylation, which is really the process that gives us a lot of ATP. All these processes, TCA cycle and electron transfer chain, etc., they happen in the mitochondria of the cell. They are aerobic, it means they require energy, and they are common for the other molecules, fatty acids, amino acids, etc., that they at some point they meet this pathway or and proceed in the same way to produce a lot of ATP. Another thing I have to say is that this process here, the conversion of pyruvate into acetyl CoA, is irreversible. So it means if we get acetyl CoA from any other molecule, we can't use this acetyl CoA to produce the pyruvate and therefore to produce glucose. So we only can get glucose from those molecules that are able to give us pyruvate. So this is the end of catabolic reactions in glucose. In the next video, we will see how the other nutrients that we absorb, like amino acids from proteins and fatty acids and glycerol or triglycerides from fats, how do they join or they combine here to give us energy?